Today we have Ralph Shearing from Altaley Mining. Thank you for joining us.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Sure. So tell us about yourself and the company in the background.
All right. Well, so I'm a professional geologist trained in mineral exploration and worked all over Canada in various parts of the world and have concentrated my efforts in Mexico over the past 25 years. Our company, Altaley Mining Corporation, is a mining company. We're operating 2 mines in Mexico. One is called Campo Morado in Guerrero State. It's a polymetallic producer, primarily zinc, but it has very good precious metal values, and we're hoping to unlock a lot of those precious metals that in the past have not been able to be unlocked. And then the other mine is called Tahuehueto. It's a kind of a mouthful to say, but it's a very strong gold mine in Mexico that we're actually building right now. We acquired it a number of years ago, in fact, more than I care to admit. 23 years ago, we first acquired it. And I've helped lead it through exploration stages through the years when we had access to capital. And in this game, you don't always have access to capital. So you are scrambling around trying to raise money to advance your project to the next stage. So the various stops and starts through those 20 some odd years have led us into developing a very strong resource and reserve, which made us come to a production decision and start building the mine. And even the building of the mine has had its stops and starts because of funding. But we are now partially built. I would say probably 90% built. We have 1 ball mill ready to start turning at 500 tons per day. We are producing a little bit of concentrate from that mine, but we'll have a 1,000 ton per day operation by the end of the first quarter of next year. We should be up and operating, hoping to declare commercial production on that mine mid next year. 1,000 tons per day. It's primarily gold. 60% of the value of that mine will come from gold, another 15 or so percent from silver, and the rest from base metals.
Okay, so 2 resources. Are you looking at different other opportunities?
No, I mean, as a public company, you always have to try to expand and do more things. So both of these projects have excellent exploration potential. So we think we can, do the old buzzword, organic growth on these projects once we have a healthy enough cash flow to start exploration again. And in fact, I think we can take our Tahuehueto project from 1,000 tons per day to 15 to 2,000 tons per day within a couple of years' time with 6 months worth of drilling. So that's enough to increase the reserves to justify an expansion of the mine. And the ultimate potential, I believe, in that mine could be 3,000 tons a day. If you get any bigger on this style of underground mine, we're in very steep topography in the Sierra Madre Mountains. And so it's challenging for finding tailings disposal facility space and things like that. Just infrastructure for a larger mine is getting challenging. But I believe it's got potential for that. And it should be a very long life mine based on the knowledge that I have and the team has of its exploration potential.
So expansion is more based on using the profit from current reserves rather than going to capital markets and look for more? Or?
Well, yeah, I mean, as much as possible, because every time you go to capital markets, you're diluting the company and the value to your shareholders. So having the project get into commercial production, get cash flow going, and that's just key for us. I mean, it's really, Tahuehueto is a very strong project. We just need to get it through and get it built. And we've had our challenges. It's anytime you start commissioning a mine, there's always little things that trip you up and you have to fix. They break down and so on and so forth. I mean, for example, this year, in the last several months, it's been one of the wettest rainy seasons we've had for many, many years down there. And that's really complicated the operation. We've had to stop production or stop work on our tailings facility, just too much work. So right now we're mining very small amount and dealing with the tailings in a different manner for the time being, but a small amount.
Interesting. So speaking of those challenges, we like to ask, hey, what are the company's strengths and what are the weaknesses? When you have weaknesses, how are you addressing those?
I mean, we're a small company. So, one of our weaknesses is being small. We need to grow and get more people involved. We've got a fairly good team now. We've got a great board of directors and a management team. We need to continue to add to that as we get more success on the mines. So the main challenge right now would be if you take one project at a time, you look at Tahuehueto, just getting it through the commissioning and getting it running smooth and steady, and have steady state production, steady cash flows. And that's our current challenge. And then on Campo Morado's, it's an interesting mine. It's got excellent exploration potential. It's got a lot of resources outlined, but we have to solve some of the metallurgical issues. We have gold and silver are difficult to recover out of the ore, and we have a fairly high grade gold and silver content in that style of a deposit. But we're only recovering 15% of the gold and about 30 to 40% of the silver. So we've been going through a fairly extensive metallurgical test program, and we've tested pneumatic flotation. Those big words, but pneumatic flotation is a more modern way of dealing with microfine ground ore. So at Campo Morado, we have to grind very fine down to 10 to 15 microns.
Wow.
And that's those, when you get to that size of particle, it doesn't work that well in a traditional mechanical flotation cell. So you need more energy to capture the particles. And that's what these pneumatic flotation cells are.
Is that pretty cutting edge, or?
No, it's not cutting edge. It's being used in various places, but it's not a traditional flotation method because it's more costly to do microfine grind, but you get better recoveries all around. And as a consequence, you get better concentrate grades and make more money.
Are you using any cutting edge technologies that you think
I would say that the next stage of that testing, which is well underway, and we're starting to get some results back, is called an Albion process. So it's a forced oxidation and leaching in order to unlock the precious metals that are currently tied up. We call them in the industry refractory gold and refractory metals. And that just means that the very small particle of the metal you're seeking, gold, silver, whatever, is encapsulated by gangue mineral. Like in our case, a lot of it's in pyrite. And so you can't get access to that particle unless you break down that grain of pyrite. So you crack it, you break it, and that allows you to get access to it. So that's the oxidation process. It goes in, you oxidize the sulfide mineral, and that will give you access to that grain of gold or silver, whatever it is. And then you can actually leach it with leaching technologies.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the team you mentioned a bit. How would you differentiate them from the other people in the mining industry?
I can't say that our team is better than other mining teams. I mean, every mining team has good people involved, or else you're not mining. If you don't have a good team there, you're going to run into all kinds of problems. But, we've got a very strong board of directors. For example, one of our chairman in the company is named David Rhodes. He is the managing director of a group called Endeavour Financial out of London, out of the UK. And they've raised billions of dollars for mining companies. So, he liked what we were doing, like the prospects of the Tahuehueto project, decided to come in and join our board of directors. And when he came in, he brought a lot of other talent along as well. We had brought in a lawyer to help us on the legal side of things.
That's always good.
Yeah, Natasha Kernan, she's a real sharp gal. She's, her claim to fame would be she was ranked one of the top 40 under 40 legal professionals in New York. She now resides in Vancouver, but she's been a good background and helped us a lot. Underground mining engineer on the board of directors. Same things on the management team. We've got a chief operating officer. And recently, in fact, yesterday, we just announced the appointment of a new CEO. I used to be CEO. I've stepped aside to allow a more talented mining operations guy to take over that side of the
But that was hard to find. Somebody more talented than yourself?
No, very easy. Very easy. I'm a exploration geologist.
Yeah,
So
you can only wear so many hats.
Yeah, and the company is actually growing to a point where it's getting beyond my capabilities on the operations side of things, and I'm super swamped with work because of the CEO is always extremely busy.
Yeah.
So this is going to help the company a lot and allow us to get more things done.
Good.
Yeah.
Let's move into some of the macroeconomics and what is your shareholder mix, private, public, institutional?
We have about a 30% institutional component, board of directors, another 25%, and then public votes the 50 to 60%. So we're a pretty well structured company. in that regard, with a wide base of shareholders. We have some institutional players on own stock, have participated in many private placements over the past several years, and good strong supporters. So that's always good to have those style of.
Do you guys
investors
keep in pretty good communication with retail investors? Do you feel like they're in for the long haul? Because, the newer ones typically aren't. Have they been some veteran investors?
Yeah,
or?
well, some veteran investors are certainly in for the long haul on this one. They recognize the potential of our Tahuehueto project.
Got a good number.
Yeah, I mean, they see a very good future for Tahuehueto. So that's brought them in the first phase, and they've stuck with us and stood by us, even when we've had some difficulties. And we have had our difficulties in commissioning over this year. We thought we would be in production earlier on in the year, and it's just taken us a little bit longer to get there from the commissioning issues. So yeah, good people, good strong supporters. If you look on the public side of the market, I mean, that's really hard to gauge on how long those types of shareholders stay on. I mean, I think most players that are in the mining game, and if they're investing in mining, understand that mining is a long process to get from an exploration project, that project into a mine. And frankly, 1 out of 1,000 never make it to a mine. So there's various ways an investor can make money in this sector in the exploration phase by getting involved in a project that makes a discovery. And then there's a lot of interest, a lot of hype in the stock, and people can make some money there. And then it's just a long process to go through and continually develop that resource, turn it into reserve, do all the economic studies, and then actually decide to build a mine.
Interesting. Okay, so let's talk about, gold just hasn't had its day, and it's getting pulled down by broader markets, as we know. So how do you think you'll do if, let's say, the market drops 30, 35% compared to other companies? There are going to be definitely more challenges.
Well, I think if the overall market's dropping another 30%, I think you're going to see gold do very well, personally. No,
I meant actually gold dropping 30%, not the broader markets.
Yeah, personally, I don't see it. I don't think you're going to see gold drop 30%. There's too much uncertainty out in the world right now, and gold is always a flight for uncertainty.
Well, it's dropped 15% in the past couple months. So
but it dropped prior, and it went back up, and it went back down. So 30% is a big drop. It could. I mean, anything can happen in these markets. But my feeling and my experience, I've been in the industry 35 years, tells me that unlikely 30% drop in gold. The momentum for gold, I believe, is upward because of just vast amounts of money printing, debt, etc., from the big governments, and sooner or later that's got to come to a head.
Yes, and every fiat currency is failed.
Yeah.
And flight to safety is going to be precious metals. So I'm in agreement. The question is since we're all getting pulled down, when do you think?
Well, that's the timing issue.
Yeah,
right?
it's the timing issue. So
how do you judge that timing? I mean, I would have thought it was 10 years ago, but of course, I'm a biased participant in the industry. It will come. It'll have its day. It's a question of when. And I just feel we're getting closer and closer to that day.
Sure. Looking
Looking at all the uncertainty in the world.
Within a year?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe faster. Depends on how fast these markets, whether the big markets, will they unravel over the coming months because of inflation, because of debt and interest rates, things like that. I mean, I'm no expert at it, but
history tells us so. It definitely does. Interesting. So in terms of your costs, your input costs, how would you say they're maybe lower in Mexico, or do you have special fixed costs that have been, over time have been
so Mexico's a pretty good place to be mining, and especially if you look at our Tahuehueto project, we're producing our own energy up there. So we're trucking fuel to site. And fuel in Mexico is government owned, it's government regulated. So they're not seeing the huge increases that are out there in the world in fuel prices. So we're lucky that way. They've gone up a bit, but they're not as out there standard in the world. Like the prices have gone up way up in the last little while. So for that reason, it's good. And then Mexico's got a strong mining history and a lot of mining talent down there. So we're not strained for employees, etc. Certain costs are going up a bit, but not onerous in our operations at this point in time.
Interesting. So how's the socioeconomic and more of the political concerns because of?
Yeah, there's various things. I mean, any mining company these days has to be very cognizant of ESG. The looking after communities, governance, environment, things like that. And it's funny because over the years, mining companies like ours have always paid special attention to the communities we work in. I mean, we need those people to be on site, and frankly, we want to help them. We often go into remote areas, and the people are poor in those areas. So, as an example, at Tahuehueto, I've watched children grow up there, and they're working for us now. And in Campo Morado, 65% of our workforce are locally hired people, and we make a special effort to do that because we want any wealth we're going to generate to mingle out into the communities, help the communities, but also it helps you with your social license to keep operating. Mexico has difficulties with cartel influence, etc. So having your local people working for you in those types of numbers is beneficial to the ongoing operation.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
and so we make a conscious effort of doing that. And if you look at, again, at Tahuehueto, we're looking at, because we're burning fuel, so our carbon footprint there is fairly high because we're, for a small mining company, because we are generating our own electricity. So we're studying the possibility of bringing in solar power. And we've got a couple of proposals on our plate now that look really good. And if we're successful in that, that's going to save us money, but also make us a much greener company as well. And the same thing in Campo Morado. We're looking for the same type of a solar farm on Campo Morado. Now, we are connected to the grid at Campo Morado, so the national grid, but Mexico generates a lot of power with burning fossil fuels as well. So that would help. Things like that are always something we pay a lot of attention to. And if you look at the governmental side of things, well, there's governments come and they go and they shift their policies and they shift their attitudes. Right now, Mexico's got a fairly left-leaning president. He hasn't changed a lot in mining. He always says he wants to, but he never seems to get it through his Congress because mining is very important to Mexico. It's probably their second industry.
Wow.
So it's really, really important for Mexico itself, and the tax they get off of mining is extremely important for the population. So I don't see a lot of changes, and as I say, governments come and go.
Yeah, definitely higher than America in terms of priority.
Yes.
Industry.
Yeah.
So that's nice. All right, Ralph. Well, hey, would you like to add any last words or comments that we didn't discuss?
I think I would encourage investors and interested parties to look into our companies. I think we've got a really good base. We're a very small company. Our stock is trading at record lows because of the state of the markets, and we're getting beat up a little bit for not meeting our schedule and getting our Tahuehueto project up in operation. And, even if in Campo Morado, we had an excellent 2021. We made just about under $30 million there. And in Q1 and Q2 this year, we only made just over $1 million in Q1 and $1.9 million in Q2. So we were switching ore bodies sending lower grade material because we were exhausting an ore body and getting to the last part of it. And we've switched into a higher grade. So now we're back on track. We should be getting more cash flows in. So our financial statement should improve over the coming months. So those types of things, bringing Tahuehueto in online, getting it producing early next year, we're expecting some really significant free cash flows out of these operations. And that'll definitely translate into a higher stock price.
Excellent. Yeah, that was actually a question I was going to ask as well. Are some catalysts that will drive the stock price other than what you just gave?
Well, those things, especially Tahuehueto in production. The other catalyst for Campo Morado is we are getting some good results on our metallurgy. We expect to be able to start to recover more gold and silver based on our metallurgical testing, and even improve our base metal grades and recoveries. So that's something we're working towards. It's going to require a little bit of capital, but we hope to get there later this year, early next year.
Excellent. Thanks for your time, Ralph.
Hey, my pleasure. Thank you.
Sure.